Let's now have some fun with eyebrows. Expressing with eyebrows is great because eyebrows really are quite simplistic. They're generally thicker at the front and thinner at the back, as their general structure implies. And some people would label the front as the head and the back as the tail. And in terms of the movement of the eyebrows, eyebrows generally have a movement of either being high, being mid, or being low. And when they assume these different positions, they change shape a little bit. So when they're high, they're usually an outward C-curve, and when they're low, they're an inward C-curve, and then when they're mid, they're kind of more of a tempered or straight C-curve, just like that, right? So they're a little bit more stretched when they're high, and a little bent when they're low. Now, generally speaking, you can just illustrate eyebrows with simple lines or doing two lines and creating a nice shape. And before we get into doing a few different eyebrow designs on these various heads, it's also useful to remember that one property of an eyebrow's thickness can say a lot about a particular character. And there are two elements that I'd like to tell you about with regards to this. So generally, when an eyebrow is thicker, this is usually seen as either a male eyebrow, right, or a young person's eyebrow, right? And usually it's very good to put thicker eyebrows on young girl characters because it really enhances their youthfulness that they have these thick, voluminous eyebrows. And thin eyebrows, conversely, are seen as either a woman's eyebrow or an older person's eyebrow, right? So these are some very good points to keep in mind. Now, of course, when we start combining our eyebrows and our eyes and our eyelids and of course our mouths, which we will get to, together, then we can start creating the wealth of complex emotions. However, you're about to see how impactful the eyebrows themselves can be, even on a face that is, for all intents and purposes, fairly static. All of these faces are copies of one another. So let's take a look at us utilizing our high, mid, and low theory, and of course adding in a little bit of exaggeration for the sake of art, where we might bend things in a way where they can't bend, but that's for the sake of drama and really emphasizing that expression. So starting here, let's start with a subtle low brow. And the character doesn't look too impressed. Looks a little bit angry or a little bit upset. Here we can do a neutral brow. And as expected, that looks pretty neutral. How about a higher brow? I'd say that makes this character look a little bit more optimistic. Here we can bend the lower brow. This is a little bit exaggerated compared to reality. Our character looks somewhat sad. We can goofball the brow a little bit. Let's put one down and another one up. And this kind of looks quizzical, maybe a little bit arrogant. And if we really enhance that angry brow shape that we see in cartoons, this is once again a little bit dramatized. Character looks very upset here. And if we do a lower C, the character can look quite focused, as if they're really focusing on something, or as if they're being very, very serious. And perhaps we can put a slanted, surprised eyebrow. And this is more of a quizzical kind of look. Not sure what's going on, or maybe they're curious about something. So you can see the wealth of expressions that the eyebrows can give a character, even if our mouth position's neutral and we have no eye detailing happening at all in terms of expression. The eyebrows are very clear indicators of expressions because they're really just these solid values on the face, these two very consistent shapes that even from a far distance can read pretty clearly. But the good thing about eyebrows at the end of the day is that they are actually very easy to illustrate. They're very easy to draw, and of course they're very easy to express with. Just always keep in mind that when you're drawing the eyebrows, you're drawing them on a rounded form, right? So obviously the head is round, even though the face is a little bit flatter at some parts. It's pretty round, so keep that in mind that you're drawing on a rounded form. And that is the end of Fun with Eyebrows. I will see you guys in the next lesson.